This is iRacing.
In this series, we often visit tracks with a long racing history. With Donington's heritage stretching back to pre-war era Formula racing, it'll fit right in as we get ready to watch round 9 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Jake Sperry. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Modern-day Donington manages to retain its old-school difficulty, but let's learn a little bit more about it with our track guide. Welcome to Donington Park. This British track can boast the rare feat of hosting Grand Prix racing since before the advent of the modern F1 Championship. About a half-hour northeast of Birmingham, cars and bikes of many types have competed here. There are two layouts that can be driven: the Grand Prix version, which is roughly 2.5 miles, or the National Circuit, which is just under 2 miles. The only difference between them is the addition of the Melbourne and Goddard's hairpins at the end of the lap. This circuit is known for its fast, sweeping bends and difficulty in overtaking. There's also some extremely tricky blind apexes like at McLean's and Coppice. Ironically, one of the most famous and more difficult high-speed turns is called the Old Hairpin. Resembling nothing of its name, it includes a frustrating kinked entry and a very critical corner exit that leads to a long piece of uphill acceleration. The first turn of Redgate is a popular place for overtakes, but it carries an unusual danger. The pit exit empties right into the racing line, and if stops are expected during the race, it can prompt some treacherous exchanges. While the circuit is most well known for its extremely wet 1993 European Grand Prix, where Ayrton Senna blitzed the field for a win, currently the track is mainly used for lower-level open-wheelers and touring car racing. Overwhelmingly popular with British fans, Donington Park has established itself as a pivotal circuit in the UK racing scene. Well, hopefully it'll be a bit of a love affair for you, Jake, on this Valentine's Day. We have one of your home tracks.
Absolutely. What an incredible circuit Donington Park tends to be in terms of racing. A circuit that has always been built as one of these great tracks of national heritage that goes and races. Part of the same ownership group there of Motorsport Vision Racing, which owns the likes of Brands Hatch and Oulton Park and the likes of Cadwell Park, which are all on iRacing currently. But this circuit, which opened in 1931, has itself the bulk of a circuit that has practically remained unchanged, even in the face of potentially hosting the British Grand Prix in the 2010s. This is a circuit that has a lot of character to start the lap. It's one of the great openings out there as you go from Redgate down the Crane of Curves and into the Old Hairpin, but it's going to be difficult in the national layout because this will feel like a cauldron and a cathedral to go and race in. Shout loud and you echo everywhere. Coppice Corner and the run through at Goddard's turn 9 and 10, they're going to set up a completely different style of racing to what you normally see at these Lotus 49s.
And for that racing, they are competing for a championship as they are every season. And up at the top, as usual, it is Audrius Valenteus, and he is here today once again. So will he return to that top step? Will Nicola Kaki finally get his first win of the season? Or will Kevin Verbruggen back up his first after Mexico City rewarded him and boosts him up into third in the championship? Seb Tixier, as has been kind of the trend lately, has had an up and down season, but he is still in fourth. Toga Hisada unusually, our defending champion sits in 5th. And behind him, well, not behind him, next to him, if anything, tied, is Bill Tyler. Jacob Reed, also missing last round, is sitting in 7th, a single point behind them, but he has been as fast as usual. So we'll see whether or not he is competing for the win today. Behind them, you've got Olsen, Becker, and Ho rounding out your top 10. But that's just the F1 standings. We also have an F2 championship.
And this is a championship where you tend to see it's the lower I ratings that put yourself in that range. So that gives you the ability to fight. And there's not been many in the F2 driver standings over the course of this season, which is why Yannis Carpentier is now having a happy time of things at 33 points clear over Alan Graham. Mats Linden and Andres Bruno are at 34 and 35 points back. So they're still very much in the mix to go and make something happen. Tobias Hernvey is then in 6th position, is in 5th position at 42, and then you get a gap back to the part-timers, Don Peak, Rafael Camacho, Sergei Borodkin in there, Raul Pinochet Donoso, and then Andrew Eng making up the top 10. But at the moment, it's a 5-driver battle for category honours at the moment, Joe.
Now, in the Cup of Nations, it's kind of interesting here because they score it according to multiple drivers, but only one of them gets to score. Still, that means it can be slightly mixed up compared to what we see in the Drivers' Championship. So Italy is at the top. Liechtenstein for Kevin Verbruggen doing a phenomenal job up there in 2nd, with Spain sitting in 3rd. You have to go down to our current points leader, hailing, or at least identifying for Ukraine, there in 5th for Audrius Valenteus. The UK, obviously, with quite a few drivers, typically has managed to get themselves with consistency up into 4th. And then, of course, you've got England, which I know is a bit weird, but you are allowed to choose one or the other here in the sim. US and France there in 7th and 8th, followed by Japan and Germany to round out your 10 drivers. Just in case we got some new viewers, Jake, why don't you give us today's race details?
Right, so it's round 9 of 12, which means that we are right into the final third of the season. Points are going to count and mean a lot more than they would have done at the early stages of the running. It's 31 laps here today, which sounds like a lot, but when you consider that a lap time around here today is 65 seconds, you're probably looking around at about a 32 to 35 minute race if all things go smoothly. Now, these drivers do have the ability to change what is on the car, not by, oh, I can put a nice fancy front wing on it, but by the settings they have available. So the springs, the dampers, the tire pressures, those sorts of things. That's what can change on the open setup to get the car to work to the way that you want it to. But if you crash it, there is no spare car available. Once you're out, you are out, and there is no way of getting yourself back in if the car is too damaged to continue. If you look at the incident points out there, if you pick up 17 and you get 1 for an off track, 2 for losing control, 4 for crashing the car heavily into someone else. If you get 17, it's a drive-through penalty. If you then go and take that drive-through penalty, get another 8 after that, say goodbye to your race. You're disqualified.
Well, right now, Valenteus is certainly not disqualified. His second lap was good enough to take pole away from Hisada. The first time around, they were 4 thousandths of a second off of one another, and then suddenly he managed to put a 10th and a half over him. As Jake mentioned, it's short lap times around here, so a 10th and a half is actually pretty significant. But Jack David Spickett, who is still yet to set a time, could disrupt things a little bit here. The number 8 coming through the back half of the course. This is under Starkey's Bridge, up to Schwantz Curve and into McLean's. I think the thing that really strikes me about this circuit, Jake, is how many blind and difficult corner entries we have.
Yes, it is very much a circuit that challenges, as here comes Jorge Nieva then to the line on a 105.1. That's 4th fastest and a lot better this time than last week. He's been sort of losing a little bit, has Jorge, over the past couple of seasons. That consistency to constantly be at the front. He's one of the best drivers never to take a title. And Jack David Spickett now making that charge towards the line, who is quote-unquote finish out there, and that is a 106.3 to start. That minus him in the mid-pack here, but I don't think that lap was everything he wanted. That's a driver who should be aiming to go top 10, and this is actually quite a strong field when you consider drivers like Arturas Candelis and Raul Rosses, for example, here today. Joe can't even get a sniff of it.
Yeah, this is tough, and it's also, I keep talking about how tough the circuit is. This onboard really should show you just how hard it is in these cars, constantly having to feather the throttle, and how much he's making micro corrections all throughout the lap, up and over the blind McLains, and now even into the more blind Coppice here, just clipping that inside apex and having to again gently get onto the throttle onto one of the longer straights down Starkey Straight towards the Robert chicane. Let's see whether or not this will be an improvement on that 106.3, because like we heard Jake say, this is out of position for what we typically expect. A lot of overcorrecting there coming off the final chicane, and as he crosses the line, a 105.5. It's better, but it's still only 12th.
12th is not going to cut the mustard in terms of making a big charge out there, but with small tracks, it's small margins that make the difference. And so you look around at the people who he's with at 0.6 of a second, Gary Ho, John Olsen, Glenn Becker. At other circuits, they'd be over a second off the pace. So this is one that there isn't really much that you can do to get wrong, but Adrius on top, the gold standard, finding exactly why he's on top again.
All right. Will that track position play a major factor? That's a big question as well, because Valenteus has that pole position. Togo Hisada will be starting next to him. It's going to be a rush down into turn one between them. Nikola Kaki will start from third as Jorge Nieva, good enough for fourth today, then sees Leo Sequeira on the inside of row 3 and Seb Tixier to his outside in 6. It'll be Xavier Sanchez in 7th with Kevin Verbruggen starting from 8th. Gary Ho will be P9, and John Olsen rounds out your top 10.
Over in 11th is the number 18 of Glenn Becker with Jack David Spickett, who we saw that second lap with on board. Arturas Candelis and Raul Rosses then will be 13th and 14th, with Laust Olsen still recovering back from a broken arm in 15th, but getting better and better with each run through. We'll have Bill Tyler for company on row 8. Mikhail Zabala is in 17th with Robert Plumley 18th. That then leads to Michael Grissinger and Alan Graham making up your 20.
The ever popular Cam Porter starts 21st as Giannis Carpentier will be P22nd. You've got Kurt Clapper in P23, Thomas Tuba in 24th, and then Matt White on the quarter century mark. To his outside, it's Aku Liski, who finished his qualifying a bit late there. It's Will Lamb in 27th, followed by Mats Linden in 28th, and Tobias Harnby 29th. Andre Bruno will be 30th with one more car. Jason Clapper in his traditional non-qualifying position at the back of the field. What can he do from there? As passing might be hard, but attrition does often play a factor at this track, Jake.
It does, and so you look around at a circuit like this, it's national level, it's FIA grade 3, which means grass and gravel runoffs instead of asphalt runoffs, which means if you're going to hit the wall, you're going to hit the wall hard. It's going to be very tough to get away with anything out there, especially on a track condition of 26 degrees, a little bit cool, dog walking territory.
All right, the lights are now up as the engines begin to rev here at Donington Park, and the green flag is out. Off of the line, it does look like Quesada is struggling, and that allows Nikola Kaki to look up the inside while Valenteus straightens away from the pair of them down into turn one. Around the outside, Togo's going to hold on as struggling to find grip. Nikola tries to keep hold of at least third place, and he slots in a line.
Exit stage left, that's Leo Sequeira, who's now going to have to try and rejoin at the fastest section of the circuit, the Craner Curves. He will be able to do so. He got a tag from, I believe, Tixier going through on the early stage. It was either him or it was going to be Kevin Verbruggen, who has capitalised quite nicely off of the start of this one. Valente is clear at the front, but critically, it's a tiptoe for the opening laps, and you just got to set up your stall and maybe work for a lap or two to try and get the places here on the early stages. The most common type of racing that runs around this layout, the circuit, the National, I'll say it very quietly, British touring cars.
Nothing quiet about that racing as Jack David Spickett kind of pokes his nose a little bit. He's up 2 positions since the start, gets into the back of Gary Ho a little bit. He's obviously taking the aggressive route at the beginning to try and make up whatever positions he can while the racing is so close and frantic here at the start. But you can see what I meant earlier about the difficulty of overtaking. It's only the end of lap 1, a minute in, and we are pretty much single file the whole way through.
Yep, so this is going to be about find a move. You're not going to have too wide and these very hefty brakes. You're going to have to extend the braking zones far wider than you would do otherwise, as we look back to Michael Grissinger here in 18th position, really trying to work here in the mid-pack. Has got the F2 leader, Yanis Carpentier, trying to work through to the inside, under Starkey's bridge, up into McLean's corner, and you're really having to extend those braking zones. You're really having to look at how early you go, and it's not the most telling here. What's really telling, actually, is the braking zone in towards Goddard's, the final chicane, because you brake before the little crest in the rise as Jack David Spickett tries to get by the national colours, which are being run by Candelis, and he can't quite find the lane.
Just gets shuffled back a little bit. That means Gary Ho's going to try and catch up to him, but I think Gary's got his own troubles. That is Guardia coming up from behind, and he's got the inside down into Redgate. Can he manage to make it stick? He's just about through, and there it is. So Gary Ho slotted back into 12th.
Yeah, Raul Rosses will be happy, and Gary will realise that Laust Olsen is there behind. You can see just how much work he's got to do. Full motion rig available to Gary Ho. Now, in terms of being the fastest, full motion isn't as quick as some would say, as just having yourself a nice set of pedals and a wheel, being stable and going through, but it's immersion and feel that Gary's going for, and you can definitely sense it right now. He is going to have to work hard right now in his Lotus 49.
Up against the one-arm bandit, Laust Olsen, trying to see if he can get into the first dozen positions as he challenges Gary Ho, who seems to be going a bit backwards. He's lost 3 since the beginning of today's race, and we're only finishing lap 3 right now. Down through the final chicane once again. We check in now trouble with Nieva.
Thomas Tuber and Michael Grissinger, they're around coming out of Coppice Corner, and it looks like Grissinger has found himself then the spin, and there was nowhere to go for the likes of Thomas Tuber, the Slovakian. So that is really going to hurt both their races, and was basically the first port of call where we've had any form of trouble. And now Matt White in trouble there in the gravel at Redgate.
Oh, he'll get the car back onto the track, but you can see the damage it has done as multiple drivers managed to sneak by in the meantime, all the way down to 27th. You do not want to be losing those valuable positions today to simple mistakes. We've got a little bit of a replay. I wonder if this was Leo. Yeah, this is the number 10. And he got some help, unfortunately, from the number 15 of Seb Tixier, who also had a little bit of an off in the process, so he didn't get away scot-free on that one.
No, Jason Plato once went down that section. He found himself in the barrows when he was in a title fight in the mid-2010s. So Leo Sequeira understanding that that is what we call the pass with least resistance down there. You don't want to be doing too much wrong down the Craner curves. Valente is now out to a 1.1 second margin. Our focus here on Robert Plumley at the moment in the number 20 machine, and he's having an okay run at the moment, is Rob, and so he'll be hoping to jump up against the likes of Mikael Thabala then for placement, as Glenn Becker then trying to recover back through the field. He's not had a great start in the number 10. He'll be looking to get back. That's him now up to 26th.
Out of only 31 drivers as well. That's not looking good. We've had bigger fields than this, but this is plenty around such a short lap. I wonder at what point we start to see them reach the tail, because we're already about halfway around the circuit and we're less than a third of the way through the race. Becker continuing to try and give chase on Kurt Klappers. Now Kundelis is in a fight once again. This time he's on the attack instead of on the defense as they go wheel to wheel down through the chicane with John Olsen, but Olsen gets the shot, and now Spickett sees an opportunity. Kundelis is a bit on the back foot. The door is open, almost three wide contact with Olsen there between he and Kundelis, and that allows Spickett to get them both.
Well, scamper on through, why don't you? That's very well played there by Jack. Saw the issue involving in front of him and decided, look, I'm not going to want to get myself too involved. Kurt Clapper there, finding himself then in position. And what I was noticing actually between Candelas and John Olsen, Olsen's car pitches a lot more than Arturus's does. So that indicates to me that Arturus Candelas is running a much stiffer suspension compared to John Olsen.
So many rises around here. Wonder if that will make a difference as he's on the attack, but we've switched over to Cam Porter in the meantime. And Cam sitting in 21st is exactly where he started this race, but he might lose one because there goes Jason Clapper on his traditional run up the field and demotes him.
And very much like his job title, he's just got to sand it out there and just get it as smooth as possible to go and make that run. 1.1 it was then over the line at the front, and Valentin is very happy. But this is what you find. You'll get yourself into these battle packs, Joe, and I'm very curious to know how they're going to try and break through. Carpentier leads that. Then you've got Akuliski, who's in there, who's up 8 places off the start of this race, is your biggest gainer out of all of it at the moment, with the exception of Jason Clapper, who's up double digits, but that's no shock there. But if you're in this group, it's not as simple as you can just fly by, make 2, 3, 4 passes in 5 corners and run away. This is going to take you laps to set it up.
Very much so. And yeah, to tell you how tough it is to try and get by, top 7 are exactly where they started this, except for Jorge Nieva. He is, or excuse me, Kevin Verbruggen rather. He is up 3 positions and working on Jorge Nieva right now to try and get into that 4th position. But he had a bad run coming off the final chicane. That allows Jorge to just scoot away a little bit. In the meantime, we've got a bit of a replay. Let's take a look at what's happened elsewhere in the fields. Grissinger, what sent him down to last place? He's side by side, and he gets a little bit loose, and unfortunately, he and the 21 come together.
Yeah, Thomas Tuber really wasn't expecting a car to lose it on his outside, and you're fighting with the lateral grip that the tyre will give you. And if you put too much wheel rotation into the car, it's just going to snap and say no. Now for Verbruggen, who has, of course, his first win last time out at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez out there. He will look at Nieva and Koki, who are both up in front. Nicola is in a lot of stress at this point in time. He's been dropped by 2 seconds from the top 2, and now is probably going to look around and say, here's the panic. Top right of your screen, this is what happened to Matt White. He just outbrakes himself into the opening corner and chooses to abandon it in the gravel rather than running into the back of the cars in front.
Thankfully, in the sim, you don't get stuck like you would potentially in real life, and just gets back onto the circuit. Certainly dirtied up the exit, I'm sure, as that does match real life pretty well. You don't want to be dragging too much on there, raise the ire of your fellow competitors. In the meantime, Kaki, like you mentioned, he's in a bit of trouble. He's losing touch with our leaders and is now under threat from Jorge Nieva as he goes wide through the old hairpin. And Jorge says, thank you very much. That could be an easy pass. Oh, they nearly make contact through the very swift Starkey's Bridge.
Was trying to really overcommit to the old hairpin, and it's called the old hairpin because it's even older than the circuit. As far as its circuit, all the way back to the 1930s, it was never truly a hairpin out there. So for that section of road, he was trying to maximize the road on the outside. He stepped a tyre out of line, and so very easily, when you have less grip on one tyre compared to the other 3, the car's going to want to spit you around until it has the same grip across all 4 tyres. And so ultimately for Nicola, very good, quick, dexterous hands, enough to mean it's just the 1 place loss. But Nieva now up to 3rd, and it's Verbruggen, and also there in 6th position, Seb Tixier, trying to bring himself back into the party. Don't either count out the former Porsche All-Star, Xavier Sanchez.
Exactly. I think this is about to be a fun fight here because those 2 swapping positions check them up back into this duo. We haven't touched on it, but keep an eye on that interval and the upper left. Valentin and Hisada have been staying at about a second apart. There's not much to show right now, but if it does kick up, you can bet it'll get intense. In the meantime, Tixier, if that setup looks familiar, it's because both he and Gary Ho have said previously they share the exact same sim rig setup and will sometimes even swap parts if one of theirs breaks. as they live close enough to be able to do so. In the meantime, the Frenchman still giving chase on last week's winner and keeping him honest.
Yep, so you've just got to try and stay as close as you can to the car in front, and in saying that, Togo Hesada has dropped a full second on that last lap, and that will be a huge indicator of where the troubles start to lie. And he's just too aggressive at Coppice corner, had to serve a slowdown penalty, Joe, and suddenly that 1 second gap is 2.5, and you can't give Aldrius 2.5 seconds. You give him an inch, he takes about 1.5 miles in terms of time away from everyone.
I mean, precision and almost practical perfection between those two is what's needed to win these races. We've seen it time and again as they've become pretty friendly rivals over the years. Meanwhile, still trying to get the best of the rest settled because Nieva holds on to that third spot. And this is where he lost that time. Nieva just a little bit too far over the big red curb.
Yeah, that was down at Goddard's, how aggressive he was having to be. I think it was actually the corner before where the slowdown penalty was accrued. So I think that one there just being nightmarish in terms of reality there. Cocky, though, still having to look back rather than forward. And he's sort of been this driver who's been happy and comfortable to just pick up points here, pick up points there, and just getting a very nice amount in the bank to work with. But in a series where you've got 2 drop rounds to work with, Joe, I don't think you're going to win a championship by just getting all the second, thirds, and fourths. You need wins, because if you can drop 2 rounds, a driver like Aldrius who can win 4, 5, 6, 7 races in a season, his drops aren't going to be as bad. And if he just doesn't turn up for a couple races, then he will just go out there and he'll be flawless. I think Nicola Cocchi's got to find an extra 0.3 of a second a lap out there somehow, and that will get him up to that next level where he can challenge consistently for wins. It's the only thing missing in his arsenal.
I agree. Right now, it just doesn't look like it's there. Wow, Sanchez again having to manhandle the car coming out of Coppice with a big correction, and that loses him some time on Seb Tixier. Is interesting that Nicola Cocchi, after getting overtaken by Nieva, is still on the rear guard with the number 5 just filling up his mirrors. We'll see whether or not any of these other cars plays a factor in that as well, because as soon as those two start fighting, that's going to just invite more friends into the fray.
Yeah, but they do have a good gap here. We're over to Jack David Spickett. They've got about 3 seconds, and he's doing 105.1s, and the pace of this group is about a 105.2 at the moment. A look back at that Ford DFV Cosworth engine. What a piece of machinery. That will always choose to be, and Cocky really having to fight through. You can't actually go flat under Starkey's Bridge through that section of road. It seems very weird to say that, but because they're putting so much pace in, they've got no aerodynamics to actually keep the car planted down to the floor, so you get so much understeer through the corner. That's why the tyres are so chunky here in these Lotus 49s. They need that much of the tyre just to work through with the grip. It's not just, you know, something that's there for show. It's very much there to help the car stay around.
It feels like I've seen multiple times now off the corners that Nicola Cocchi has an oversteery car. That, or he's just being too greedy with the throttle, because it is slippery for him, and that might be what's causing him so much woe and having a hard time holding back his competitors. Tixier amongst them on the charge here, trying to see if he can just get another spot in this group. We're going to check in with his webcam once more. Look at Verbruggen, who finds himself getting ever closer, but McLean's is hard to make the pass, and indeed, he isn't even going to stick his nose out.
So long as you hold the middle of the road here and you can hit the racing line through almost every corner, you should be safe. The only 2 corners you've got to really worry about over the course of this lap is the run out of Coppice and the run out of Goddard. So these 2 corners are the most important on the lap. Every other one is going to be critical. You can see there Verbruggen tried to really move across, get in the mirrors of Nicola Cocchi, but was never truly alongside to go soireeing down the inside. This was very much a case out there that Kevin Verbruggen isn't placing his car in the right place to go and attack and make a move. He's been busy, that's great, but what you do is you burn the tyre, you burn a bit more fuel, because, you know, you're looking around, you're just trying to find a way to get you know, around at any different point. And Nicola Cocchi's just there, sitting in a straight line, going, I don't really have to worry.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, is you wouldn't think with how hard these tires are that you can overheat them, but you definitely can. And Jason Clapper seems to be pretty good about keeping them in working range as he overtakes many cars. And Carpentier is the next on his list for 18th position. He was trying to show himself there heading down to the Craner curves, but that is typically unwise to try and go side by side through there.
No, and the old hairpin is a one-line suits all corner. That's a very nice dog there that is on the side of his car. Gives him a bit of appreciation there for that, and I wonder whether that is Jason's own dog that is there on the side rather than just any nondescript one that is there. But you really get the sense of you earn overtakes here at Donington Park. This is one of the circuits where you don't just get given them, you don't just try and manage it, and actually that's why I think you see so many strong British racers out there in the racing scene, because they have to learn on circuits like these, Joe, that you're not going to get given the overtakes on Tilcadromes with kilometre-long straights. You have to make passes everywhere. Even Silverstone isn't the easiest to pass on.
And he goes around the outside. Speaking of trying to make passes, he muscles his way up into 18th past Carpentier. So this dog will hunt, and that moves him up yet another with Zabala, the next one on his list. That is a gain of 13. Meanwhile, Valenteus is now up to 2.5 seconds over Hisada. So some more gains bit by bit, continuing to run away from the Japanese driver. And we have passed the halfway point now.
We have, so now it's the road to home. If you've managed to do enough to say, I can jump away, it is going to be a wonderful chance to say that the result is going to end up in your back pocket. A gap of 2.5 seconds is comfortable for Aldrius, representing the blue and the yellow of Ukraine, and he is just trying to be out there going forward. And this is a confidence builder for a driver like Aldrius, because lest we forget, Joe, he has donated 1,400 iRacing in the last year.
Exactly. It's been a bit of a dip for him, but considering for most drivers 1,000 would be a significant loss, for him that's merely a tenth of what he has earned. So yes, it's still a big drop, but I think a little bit more understandable. Akuliski is going to go wheel to wheel with Carpentier, who is slipping farther and farther backwards. He got passed by Zabala, who has already been overtaken by Clapper. Aku around the outside of McLean's. At first looks like he had it, but no, he loses out to Giannis and maybe to Cam Porter, but Cam just a bit too tentative into Coppice.
Yeah, so not necessarily finding the pass that's needed, but you do have to preserve at some point around the lap, and you are looking here at what Cam Porter's able to be staring at. Don't want to risk the car, don't need to do anything too untoward. You've got Akuliski trying to get by Carpentier, and you've also got the very fast Glenn Becker behind, so you're in a tough position. And look how late and extended the brake zone there was over towards Redgate from Akuliski. Very happy to just go out there, try and attack down the hill, but again, you're going to have to try and position yourself. This is a tactical game around this track. You know you can't get a move down at the old hairpin, you just need to prioritise how much of a drive can you get off the exit, and Carpentier seemingly has a little bit better tyre life at this point in time, as looks like Leo Sequeiro has run into troubles and is now going to be out of the race potentially with a dropped connection.
Yeah, don't have anything official yet, but it does look like all signs are pointing to that, unfortunately. So not been the day that Sequeiro was hoping for, but sometimes that does happen in racing.
Whoa, in the background.
Yeah, that's Alan Graham, who does indeed find the Armco, and that is it for him.
Written off as quickly as possible there. It's a big off to go around. You've got a couple hundred meters to save it in the grass, as now Becker going the long way around here of Cam Porter. You can see Cam really having to concentrate. Little correction there on the steering wheel as he tries to work himself forward there, and he's just got the clearance at the moment, so he'll be happy with the way that it's running at this stage. So now as you start wondering here how things go, Alan Graham, that was a long way off, but again, I reckon it's just trying to put the power down too early coming out of Coppice Corner.
Glenn Becker had a really good qualifying, but it's kind of come undone here in the race. Lost 10 positions. He sits in 21st and now battling with Cam Porter to try and crack into the top 20. Just no success, at least at this stage. I was kind of keeping half an eye on Niebakaki and Verbruggen because they were getting close, but they've now separated as we watch this once again. So this is what put Glenn back right at the very beginning of the race. Did he get tangled up as well? No, he just oversteered.
Yeah, cold tyres, lap one, trying to get the grip off the exit there and trying to also avoid Arturas Kundelis on the outside. You try and work as much as you can to get the car to respond to you, and often the first lap is the most difficult in racing, and that's why those who can get the tyres up to temperature quickly, those who can make very few mistakes, are often the best out there as they go. Cocky still in fourth, but has now started to find pace to get back towards third as we now take our focus over to Arturas Kundelis, and look how low Jack David Spickett got the front nose there, down on in. That nose at the front brings cooling to the rear of the car, and they can really sense the dip in the car right now, almost scraping there against the floor.
Yeah, very unique the way these cars drive, the way they are set up compared to pretty much every modern car that you can race in the sim. Hence why it is so niche, but it is also so loved by these drivers. It is a visceral machine. But Kundelis, man, he is all over the back of Jack and just not letting him rest while we check out what happened to Mikhail. And unfortunately is another one that's caught out through the chicane, thankfully keeping it out of the wall. Jack responds, pulls himself a couple more feet away, just getting the needed breathing room because the number 11 has been unrelenting since we've joined this battle.
Yep, so with these two then refusing to yield at this point in time in the race, I think you can argue right now that they are just hoping that the result is going to be that something happens in front for these two to move up an extra place. The issue they've got is third, fourth, fifth and sixth with 10 laps to go, Joe. They have been very well behaved at the front, and we should expect nothing less because these drivers drive this one week in, week out. Now, Cam Porter here, he's just tried to get narrow off the exit here, and I think he's managed to just get the clearance. There was a lot of smoke there in the gravel behind.
Yeah, not sure if that was related at all, but he managed to overtake the Finn, got the job done. Again, the long way around. We've seen a lot of passes around the outside of Redgate today, which I wouldn't have expected.
No, but that's the way you're going to have to go and make these moves. It's not as simple as you can just chuck it down into the corner. You can be happy and you can just go and make it work. Everyone's going to defend the inside. They know it's tough, and here comes Nicola Cocky to go soireeing for that move, and this is the chance that he's been hoping for. Lunging now for it, but this has opened it up because here comes Kevin Verbruggen for 3 wide over towards Redgate Corner. Now the outside has worked really, really well. Cocky is the best on the inside. He gets it covered up. On the middle, it is for Jorge Niebla. He holds on to fourth, but that's what we're talking about. 10 laps to go. Gloves come off, and on come the knuckle dusters.
And Tixier just about stole a position as well. You could see as Kevin was trying to pull the over-under, he shut the door on Seb very late there. Thankfully, no contact between them. Suddenly, these four are nose to tail as they head over the crest of McLean's once again. Seb just a bit off the apex.
Yeah, and Togo's had another slowdown penalty. That's why the gap has now explored out to 4.3 seconds. So it's really starting to make itself known now that you are in an absolute fight between now and the end of this race, and the work is going to be needed at this stage. You've also got John Olsen and Raul Rosses in a bit of a dogfight as well, but Tixier, a tiny bit of oversteer there, as there's John Olsen in the background on the outside trying to deal with Raul Rosses. Rosses is okay. Oh, there's contact, sorry. There's contact. Olsen has been ran into from behind then, and that would have been Gary Ho, who was not expecting the difference in speed.
So Gary Ho picks up the spot. Olsen loses out to Bill Tyler as well as they recover as we continue our focus on the battle for P3. Nikola Kaki back up into that podium position past Nieva, while Verbruggen and Tixier hungrily watch on, knowing they are so close to getting this. Ooh, there was an ambitious one by Nieva coming up into McLean's, but Kaki thankfully shuts the door.
Well, Nikola Kaki here is having to do everything in his power to hold it together. Top right of your screen, you can see Gary Ho just takes the natural line and then can't get out of it when the line is taken there by John Olsen. John was entitled to take that line, and Gary should have been alert to the fact that the car on the outside might be slightly slower as he went in. So that one for me on Gary Ho, who needs to be a little bit more careful as they go. But look at them try and find any angle to make this move happen. Cocky is happy to hold his station at the moment, but this might be one of those battles, Joe, where it's not about if you're up there at the front, it's when you get there and how long are you willing to hold compared to what drivers have and the abundant pace that they're having to save here heading to the final stages. That's a great run by Nieva.
But is it enough for a place like here? And look at how loose that Nikola is once again. He is going to this time make a serious attempt at getting down the inside. But again, he is rebuffed. This time, though, Nikola left him a little bit of a lane at the apex. So he's not only feeling vulnerable, but he felt like his rival deserved a bit of racing room that time.
Well, I actually think that's quite clever, because if you know that a car is going to go sending a move down the inside, give them just a car width then, so that it pinches them down on the inside if they go to try it. You can then get the drive on the exit, Joe, and walk away for 3-4 tenths of a second. You don't have to worry for half a lap, or around here a whole lap.
Things heating up in this quartet to decide the last step of the podium. Nikola may have lost it temporarily, as John Olsen is going to get one of those spots back. That'll move him into 12th now, past Bill Tyler. And I think Gary Ho looking to try and reclaim that position as well, as he hunts down the gearbox of Bill Tyler into turn one. No dice that time through. We watch from over the shoulder of the Singapore driver.
Yep, he wants to try and work a way forward to gain that placement. Represents Hong Kong here in iRacing, and he's working into that old hairpin. It just used to be called the hairpin. It got renamed to the old hairpin on the resumption of racing on this track. This used to be taken over. Here comes Nieva, then down the inside. He's going to look to steal this one back. He's a bit deep into the corner. Frontal rear contact. That checks the entire group up. Jorge gets the pass, and now Kevin Verbruggen will look to the outside. No, he's going to turn it back to the inside in towards turn number one, but he's again earlier on the brakes. Nothing he can do much about it. Brilliant battling there, but this circuit used to be run on the Donington Hall estate until 1936, the outbreak of World War II. They said, we'd like to use this place as a military vehicle depot. They said yes, and they didn't be able, or they weren't able to buy this place back until the 1970s. That's why the hairpin is now called the old hairpin.
Exactly, and that was millimeter perfect, I must say, from Jorge Nieva. Tiny little touch between the wheels, but they got away with it. And now, as we go back to Robert Plumley, he and Jason Clapper maybe going to swap positions. Jason up into 15th. And again, the climb continues for the man who loves to try and go from last to first. But I think we're still waiting for that first ever win from Jason. He does occasionally these days actually qualify, and he does impress, but he enjoys the thrill of the battle. Back to Kaki once again behind Nieva. You can see every once in a while we've been catching lapped cars in the field, so this is where things get a bit more complicated. Could offer an opportunity for our drivers.
That's Javier Sanchez, who's starting to lose that ground long way around, and they're going to have to scrap here through Hollywood. Now the crane of curves, and it's the inside line here for Jack David Spickett. Turns to the outside, so will it be played on here as they go tightrope walking through this section? Wheels almost interlock. Kundelis, eyes bigger than the belly, doesn't have a lane under Starkey's bridge, so that is one place lost for Xavier Sanchez, and you need commitment to make that happen. What a great pass by JDS.
Commitment and trust as well. We've seen that multiple times in this series. It's practically like a league with how much the drivers race against one another and the familiarity that they have. And you can see that leads to some fantastic side-by-side racing where things just get oh so close. Don't count out Kundelis, fast driver in pretty much all of the vintage cars here on iRacing, and the Lotus 49s definitely has become one of his better ones in recent times. Look up the inside from Sanchez, but not working.
No, not yet. And you got 3 laps still to try and figure this one out. This isn't going to be a done deal between these drivers in and around that top 10 or in and around the top 5. They're looking around and saying, well, how do I get one place here, one place there? Verbruggen is another one of those drivers who wants to try and jump up, wants to try and gain that time. And you just saw there a missed apex by Jorge Nieva there. He was just about 1 car width off the line at McLean's, and so what looked like he was about to pull away half a second's worth of gap, Nicola Cocky back in under 3/10.
Looked a little wide there briefly from Nicola, but he didn't lose too much time. This is the corner, I think, that has made a lot of the difference, coming through Goddard's and onto the main straight, managing to get a good run out of it, keeping yourself from being vulnerable down into Redgate. All of them do so this time through. What about behind here with Kundelis looking around the outside, and once again the Lithuanian driver is full of it today. Can't quite get it done on Sanchez, but just about did.
Yeah, he tried everything there, but the crane of curves aren't the place to go, and he tries to maybe send a search party over towards the old hairpin, really fighting even now with the torque of the car to get through the corners. Look at his four-wheel drifting there under Starkey's bridge, trying to just carry as much speed as the tyres will allow it. They'll be screaming out in agony here underneath with just how brutal the work is being done right now.
Whoa.
Michael Grissinger is in the way. There's contact there. Grissinger was trying to stay out of trouble, and Arturas Kundelis has taken the tap, and that is pretty much going to write him out of it with a lap to go.
And I think he thought maybe he could use the car as a pick with Sanchez going round the outside, but it was not meant to be. And at least coming to the last lap, he should be able to complete this race. Checking back in with a battle for P3. Nieva has it. Kaki, Verbruggen, and Tixier want it, but it is Valenteus and Hisada who have run away from this quartet up the road. There is our leader. Been somewhat anonymous this entire race, but I think he likes it that way.
I think he does as well. He's driven absolutely faultlessly. He hasn't put a foot wrong, and the Lotus 49 has become his playground out there over the course of this season. Hasuno Kote, the emperor of the Lotus, Togo Hisada, he's had nothing, and get this will be win number 5.
And something has changed as Nicola got by Jorge Nieva when we weren't looking. We'll check it in a little bit. In the meantime, Valenteus with another win as he returns to the track in a couple of weeks and finds himself on top once again. And Verbruggen versus Nieva. It's a drag race to the line, and I think Kevin's got it. He does. That'll give him P4.
All of that comes from Coppice corner and missing the braking marker when you need it the most. Jorge Nieva has lost 2 places for what is literally his own mistake. He was under no threat from losing that podium. He's just dropped it. Jason Clappy, your biggest gainer in the field. He's going to try late to get by Bill Tyler, but he's going to run out of road.
Just not enough time, but still an impressive dog. As Matt White here in 20th is going to make contact, unfortunately. And that was Carpentier who gets spun around. I'm sure there's going to be a few apologies after that one.
Yeah, I think they'll be a bit sheepish over the line. You can't afford to get a slowdown penalty over the line because they will turn it into a 40-second time penalty as you cross Zavala and Lamb than some of the last takers over the line, and that will set the field straight then here as racing concludes at Donington Park.
Even if passing is tough, sometimes you can have phenomenal races, and I think that's what we got today. Although it wasn't as exciting up at the very point, with Valenteus running away to a 6-second win over Togo Hisada. P3 kept us on the edge of our seat, and it was Kaki who came out with another podium. Verbruggen couldn't repeat the win, but man, that was a fantastic battle, just edging his way into fourth, past Nieva, who falls down to fifth right at the very end. Tixier, with a front row seat, finishes sixth. Jack David Spickett recovering back to seventh over Sanchez, who finished in eighth. Kundalis, late contact, lost out on that battle, but still gets ninth as Guardia rounds out your top 10.
Over the page then into 11th, and Laust Olsen had a very quiet day at the office, but still a very successful one by comparison, a game of 4. John Olsen, busy after the contact with Gary Ho, drops them both to 12th and 13th, with Bill Tyler and Jason Clapper, their 14th and 15th places. Robert Plumley up into 16th, as Akuliski had a fantastic day's worth of racing, a gain of 9 to 17th, ahead of Cam Porter and Glenn Becker, who spun on the opening lap. And then your F2 Championship leader, Yannis Carpentier, there finishing off in 20th place.
Matt White came home 21st, while Kurt Clapper was 22nd. Mikhail Zabala, P23, as Will Lamb was the last one to complete all of our laps today in 24th. Tobias Harnvey, P25 for him, was ahead of Mats Linden in 26. Michael Grissinger with a bit of a rough one, 27th, as Thomas Tuba also tangled up early, comes home 28th. Andre Bruno, 29th, and Sequeiro with a disconnect was a DNF, followed by Alan Graham. Only 2 cars not managing to see the checkered flag. Not too shabby in a track that does see a lot of attrition typically. One of the drivers that was not collected was Togo Hisada, coming home in P2, but Togo, it looked like you struggled with some slowdown penalties. Is that what cost you time today?
Yeah, at first, the order is always very fast. And then today, somehow I managed to keep going. I managed to follow him at first 5 or 6 laps, and then he's pace up. And I was trying to follow him, but the pace is a little bit too fast for me. And I really thought that I could have the span sometimes with that high pace. So yeah, after the two slowdowns, I decided to slow down and just bring the car to the home.
That's understandable. You have that P2 locked up there. This track is an interesting one, with the lap being so short in this layout, but still incredibly tricky. What are the most important factors to get those fast laps?
The braking is super difficult with zero downforce car. Even actually lift on the very high speed with this car. So especially the right hander just before the long back stretch, and the first corner is really difficult to brake in a light way and slow down the car. So, but it's under the same time it's very challenging and very fun to drive at this track.
Well, this series is not afraid of selecting some unusual choices. Oschersleben next time out. What are your feelings on that circuit?
Yeah, really difficult to pass. Really tight track for this car. So definitely, qualify is very important, and the setup is very difficult with the differential settings, I guess. So really challenging. Race could be a little bit boring, I don't know, but it's very enjoyable to drive at this car to the Oschersleben. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, excellent job today at P2, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again next week.
Thank you so much.
That was Togo Hisada finishing on the podium, but the bronze medal today goes to the Italian of Nicola Kaki, as Jake has caught up with him.
Nicola, today looked like a day of how do I manage third rather than any sort of eyes towards a win or a second place out there with the pace of the top two. But it looked like with about a lap to go that fourth was all that could be managed, and you got a little bit of a gift here on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very lucky today, and I didn't thought it could happen something like that, even if I was getting much closer on the last lap, because I think Jorge was overheating his tires a little bit too much. So I was just trying to keep my cool and try to eat every tenth that I could. And after that, he just let me pass. So I still have to get an answer from him, but I guess he got a slowdown or something like that.
Well, sometimes it happens, and you see it time and time again. Now, as far as racing around and how important that this has been for you, you've been talking about, or we've been talking about, how much you've been up there in that championship picture. You've been looking to pick up those points. The positivity value that's needed. You were 40 points back coming into this one. You're going to drop a few more points back now from Aldrius as you head over to Oschersleben. Now, what's the mindset for you moving to these final 3 rounds? Are you just waiting for a slip up from him to make this one get close, or do you think there's any way that you can start gathering this one back with some momentum?
Well, last time I think last season, Odious could not win the championship only because he had a little too much of bad luck, because he gone DNF because of some crashes with back markers, or he couldn't attend some race. So this kind of stuff can always happen. You never know. It can happen to anybody, of course. But if I going to put my value, I don't think I am as fast as him, of course, and I think I will be happy if I could keep my second place in the championship, just like last championship, basically. And I am much more interested in the race itself compared to the season or the points. I want to have fun racing, and today was very fun, with all those battles, all those close cars, and you have to be like on 100% in your mind to be able to do that, and it's great when you can.
Well, we will wish you the best of luck for next time out at Oschersleben, maybe needing to channel a little bit of an inner Ariana Fontana out there. Nicola Cocchi there joining us and getting a 3rd place finish overall. Joe, I wonder who you've actually just wandered into in the paddock.
Well, I've caught up with the ever-popular Cam Porter, who finishes 18th today. And Cam, we saw a little bit of chatter in the text afterwards. Was there some contact right at the end that we missed?
Yeah, Glenn Becker was pressuring me pretty hard close to the end. He had some trouble early on, and he caught up to my little battle with Yan and Aku. That was pretty fun. Unfortunately, Glenn carried a little too much speed into the corner and just tagged my rear, and he spun. Unfortunately, I didn't get any damage, or I wasn't really affected, thankfully. But that's unfortunate incident with Glenn. I consider him a friend and a good guy, so it doesn't bother me at all. But yeah, good race for me today, but it was a tough crowd. Wow, hard to make any inroads, especially on this track where it was kind of challenging to make a pass. You just kind of had to force a mistake from the car ahead just to pass somebody.
Do you consider that a strength of yours, being able to put that pressure on, or is it just something where you find yourself as patient?
No, I'm more patient than aggressive for sure. Although, I feel like I can wait a long time, but unfortunately, that I'll never be champion because of that. So, I'm okay with how I race. A friend of mine asked, "Do you ever use any telemetry or anything like that?" And I said, "No, I don't. I'm not competitive enough to bother doing all that stuff to analyze my driving and stuff. I would just like to get in and floor it."
Well, like I said, you still seem to be a bit of a fan favorite, so we enjoy having you. And again, a nice job on an 18th today.
Thanks, Joe. We'll see you next week.
That was Cam Porter. And Of course, we want to give a big thank you to the community as a whole for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and to the team today, Jake, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race, as we've mentioned, Oschersleben will be Saturday, February 21st at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Not a track that you see show up on very many schedules, and certainly an unusual one here for the 49, with it being a more modern circuit. We've got more racing coming up here on Valentine's Day. IMSA Vintage Series is coming up next, and that will be at the Hungaroring at noon. So if you want to tune in with your Valentine, you could have a little bit more fun on the channel. But be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here coming up over the course of the week. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.